Tonight, stepping up drug enforcement, drivers now face checkpoints on the road into a Labrador community. That story. And
the nursing union is calling for a core staffing review.
I have not seen any review of staffing complements in my 35 years.
But the province disagrees. I'll have that story coming up.
Hard stares and fingers at the window, like aggressively.
Dirty looks and rude gestures. One Tesla owner says she's feeling open hostility when she's behind the wheel of a car built by a company owned by Elon Musk.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight in Labrador. People in Shehajit are starting to push back against drug use. The road into the First Nations town has been blocked. Community safety officers will be stopping all vehicles and have the power to deny entry into the community. The CBC's Andrea McGuire was at a meeting there earlier today.
I'm here outside the youth center in Shehajit. This is where about 100 community members gathered this morning for an emotional conversation about drugs and the critical need for solutions. This is the second meeting held about the issue in the last 24 hours, and RCMP officers were here to hear residents' concerns this morning. Residents like Florence Millie say drugs are being sold around schools, and community members are living in fear about their loved ones potentially overdosing. She also says that drug users are resorting to increasingly desperate measures to access drugs.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's prostitution, stealing belongings to their families, damaging people, fighting somebody, breaking a window just to get your fix.
Enough is enough of these people, taking over our community, the drugs taking over our community. We gotta look after our next generation, our young generation.
Drugs affected my life. It almost took my own life, when I was using drugs. And I'm sober now, and being in that dark place is very scary, and I never want to go back there. And I'm doing whatever I can to keep on with my recovery path, and recovery is real. And I honestly think if, like the leaders are doing right now, we all come together as a team, we can do this.
I'm trying to see a positive outcome to try to bring these people strength in numbers. We'll work together. I think there's a way we could work with the drug dealers too. You can't just say, okay, this is what, it doesn't work like that. I think, what is it that they want and what is it that we want? There's got to be a sense of communication somewhere. And it's sad because money and drugs and power, right? I don't know.
Some ideas for solutions: a community detox center and tribal policing. The Shehajit Innu First Nation is also working on a drug trafficking bylaw for the community. Andrea McGuire, CBC News, Shehajit.
The Transportation Safety Board of Canada earlier today released its report on a helicopter crash in Labrador last May. Now, according to the report, the pilot was trying to make a precautionary landing on Lewis Lake about 50 kilometers from Postville during stormy winter weather. The pilot, who was the only person on board, misjudged the helicopter's elevation during that descent due to poor visibility. The helicopter struck the frozen surface and rolled over, receiving heavy damage. The pilot, though, suffered minor injuries and was picked up by search and crews. Well, cuts to the snow crab quota in Zone 3K will stay in place. That's according to fishermen from the area. Harvesters have been protesting a 25% cut to the zone off the north coast of the island since Friday. Richard Gillett, who fishes out of Twillingate, says the cut will force some harvesters to go bankrupt. He says there was a big discrepancy between the two surveys the Department of Fisheries and Oceans uses to determine the annual quota. Gillett wants DFO to use just one of the surveys, which he says has been more consistent and was used to determine past quotas.
Prime Minister Carney said that he was going to restructure DFO and he wanted to get closer to the wharf. Well, we had a meeting the next morning. He didn't have to wait till the election to put it in practice. All he had to do was the next morning. You know, we're willing to talk with him. We have been willing. We've been respectful, you know, and I think the longer this goes, the more frustrated what fishermen get.
Well, to some healthcare news now. The Registered Nurses Union is once again raising concerns about workload, saying staffing levels are low while patient numbers are rising. The CBC's Abby Cole reports.
It's not easy being a nurse these days. A surge in emergency room patients, crowded hospitals, beds in hallways, and now violence. President Yvette Coffey says every 2 days a nurse files a claim to Workplace NL.
But it's being brushed under the rug kind of thing, because patients do come first, and they do, but it's at a cost. And that cost is the burnout and safety of the registered nurses, nurse practitioners, and other healthcare providers in the system.
Coffey says at St. Clair's, 11 nurses have left one surgical unit because of those working conditions.
If you look at what's happening in these bigger urban sites, and then think about what's happening in the rural, remote, underserviced areas when it comes to staffing challenges, it's scary.
The union says one solution is mandated nurse-patient ratios. These would determine how many patients a nurse can safely take on. But before getting that, there has to be a core staffing review, and the current system is using 30-year-old staffing data.
So what we're seeing in acute care in the hospital settings are the sickest of the sick. They require hospitalization and 24-hour care. Therefore, we need to look at basing our staffing on the acuity of the patients and not on decades-old data.
NL Health told CBC in a statement that they do use an acuity-based approach that considers the severity of each patient's condition. And Acting Health Minister John Hagee says he doesn't think nurse-to-patient ratios will work.
There was a sort of flurry of interest in this maybe 15 or 20 years ago, and it did not work. As far as the system is concerned, patient acuity is assessed on a daily basis by the nurses on the floor or in the facility if it's long-term care, and a decision is made through the manager about what levels of staffing are appropriate to provide care for those people with that level of acuity.
Coffey disagrees. She says each patient added to a nurse's workload results in decreased health outcomes and increased mortality rates.
We need to look at the acuity of patients on each unit and in each area and determine what is the safest staffing level here. How many patients can one registered nurse or one nurse practitioner actually care for in a safe environment for both the nurse and for the patient.
Hagee also has good news on getting new nurses. He says that in 18 months, nursing vacancies have decreased from 700 to 400. And NL Health says a new staffing review is underway. Abby Cole, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, an Innu painting that's been permanently installed in the Confederation Building lobby was unveiled this morning. The artist who created it, Patrick Nook, passed away in 2023. So his niece was there for the unveiling, and she spoke with Here and Now's Mark Quinn.
It was my uncle Patrick Nook's very last painting. I contacted him in 2023. Shortly before he passed away, he was out here getting treatments at the hospital. Just do what you think represents the Innu. Make an Innu painting. What do you think comes to mind? And this is what he came up with. He's done a lot of paintings. He's known really well in Labrador. And all his pictures are of these peaceful, tranquil moments of being in Newfoundland in the country. And he's never painted anything with community, or it's always been these still moments of everyday life in the country.
And can you talk about some of their symbols and things that are obviously very important culturally to the Innu in the painting? Can you talk about some of the aspects of the painting?
Yes, yeah, he always does a beautiful land work in the back. So the land and the areas are always really important to him. And setting in and making sure that the Innu tent is there. They're doing everyday things, so the canoe is there. They're carrying in wood. So these everyday chores to someone is actually a lot for Innu people. The wood keeps you warm, keeps you fed, and it's the circle of life that is really represented in one painting.
For the Innu Nation, what does it mean to have this here?
I think it's really important. When you first come into this building, there was no Innu work. There was nothing that showed the people before the colonization of the Confederation building. So being recognized is really important to the Innu people.
Well, to central Newfoundland now, where a lack of snow this past winter is forcing businesses to adapt. Troy Turner reports.
Snowmobiles and snowblowers are a big part of the winter landscape in this province. But what happens when the pavement is bare and the trails are largely dirt?
Winters have changed several times since I've been in this business. I started at this business in Gander in '87. In 96, 97, 98, we had pretty much the same snow conditions as what we're having these days.
Dealers usually order their stock of snow machines up to a year in advance. This makes it tricky to predict sales.
It would be really nice to have a crystal ball to see what next winter is going to be. But I mean, we've got dealers on this island now that are sitting on 60, 70, 80 snowmobiles. You know, these are all interest-bearing units that cost us money year-round. And to adapt to that, we diversify.
That means shifting gears on what they sell and focusing on year-round offering.
Since December, I've sold 3 snowmobiles, 2 of them being kids' snowmobiles, and I've sold 5 motorcycles. So that'll tell you how diversified we are.
Across town at Outdoors 1983 Limited, they've been weaning their business off the winter machinery.
Every year's getting worse and worse, so it's kind of like you adapt over time. Every year you try to, you change your business plan, you try to do things, you try to foresee what's going to happen 5 years down the road, but no, every year is different.
In 2024, Yamaha announced its final line of snowmobiles. A shock to people like Rick Gillingham, who have been in the business for more than 30 years. But he's been seeing the business migrate to other products.
People still got money to spend and they still want to get outdoors and enjoy it. We're getting more and more people switch to the all-terrains, the ATVs, the side-by-sides. The summers seems to be a little longer, warmer, so you get more people getting into the watercraft. You'll get people, the marine business, the boating is getting huge.
We'll continue to focus on our machines being used 10 months of the year. That's not winter, but being ready for the 2 months of the year-ish that we do have some version of winter. Even in a slow winter, we're still going to have some snow.
While there may not be lots of snow to ride, you still need to clean your driveway when it does. Snowblowers are a hot ticket item at nearby NL Kubota.
We sell machines, whether it's a tractor or a snowblower, excavator, that are used for outdoor applications. So no doubt weather plays a pretty important role in when people can use said toys or said tools.
While NL Kubota sells plenty of units for commercial use, Darcy Tucker says personal tractor sales continue to climb.
A lot of the machines we sell are sold with snow in mind. But the primary applications of most of the machines, the vast majority, 90% of the machines we sell, are not sold primarily for snow. They're sold because they have work to do around the house, they have work to do around the cabin.
Showrooms across town are in the middle of a transformation now as they get ready for the oncoming summer. But for the diehards, this little bit of snow today may offer a little glimmer of hope that winter is not quite over. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Yeah, that little bit of snow isn't going to last all that long. We do have some rain in the east right now, a bit of a warm front, but we'll see that cold front sweep through. It will drop those temperatures as we head through the night tonight, topped out in the single digits for most of us this afternoon, minus double digits for the north coast. But if we take a look at the weather on the way, expect that rain to end, a little bit unsettled as we head through tomorrow, but more snow for Wednesday. I'll get into the details a little later.
Hi, it's Arlette Lazarenko with The Signal. There's a lot of talk about the federal election, but what are you not hearing? What are some issues that matter to you that you want us to cover as we head to the polls? You can email us at thesignal@cbc.ca.
Well, lately, one St. John's woman has been getting a lot of dirty looks from other drivers. At first, she was confused by it, but now she's certain the hostility is likely because she's cruising around town in a Tesla. The CBC's Daryl Roberts recently tagged along for a ride to talk about navigating the politics of a troubled Tesla empire.
Is the car you drive a reflection of your politics? That's a question some Tesla drivers have been dealing with ever since CEO Elon Musk became a fixture of the Trump administration. But one Tesla driver in this province says it has her concern for her safety. Lisa Wilgar, thanks for taking the time to chat.
You're welcome.
First, just tell me, how long have you been a Tesla driver? When did you get the car?
I bought this vehicle 3 years ago.
And what's your experience been like with it so far?
I do love the car. I bought it for a bunch of different reasons, but environmentally speaking was one of them, and also for safety. Lately I've been wondering why I'm getting lots of hard stares and fingers out the window, like aggressively. Other people sort of really making me feel like I'm doing something wrong. It took me a hot minute to figure it out, and I started realizing that this is related to the political things that are going on in the world right now.
When did you first start noticing this change in behavior?
I feel like it's been about a month now.
Do you remember the first time something happened?
I do.
Tell me about that.
And I remember saying to my passenger, am I driving like an idiot, or is this just not right? But no, it's a lot of times it's on the highway, of course, and you get the arm out the window and the big finger, and people seem to be very passionate about not being happy with Tesla owners. Well, it started happening again and again. And
So it's happened multiple times?
Yes, and I thought, am I driving poorly? Is this me? And it did. So it sort of dawned on me. This is it. This is what's happening. Again, safety. The car is beeping at me right now. But I feel like this is a bit of domestic sort of extremism in a way. Contextually speaking, if you bought a house, I didn't like the CEO of the company of the house that you bought, I can't go burn your house down. These things don't even make sense. It's not sensible. Obviously, I didn't buy the car to make a political statement. I've owned it for 3 years, and this sort of just happened through politics and the global situation right now.
Yeah, what is your message to people who maybe are, angry at Elon Musk for whatever reason?
Have some considerations for who you're angry at and who you're not angry at, and us folks that have bought these vehicles over 3 years ago, when this political situation didn't even exist. So maybe have some consideration for what you're doing, or who you're angry at, or why you think that someone deserves to have their vehicle damaged, set on fire, or graffitied, right?
What do you think about that, how entrenched U.S. politics have become in Canadian culture and in Newfoundland and Labrador?
I think it's good to always know what's going on in the world and be a little bit educated on world politics and things that are happening that are related or not related to us as Newfoundlanders. However, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand there where, if something is not going to affect us at this particular time, do we need to dwell and ruminate in the negativity and maybe the type of, atmosphere that it brings, right?
Lisa, thanks for taking for a drive.
You're welcome.
Restaurants won't make money off charging for no-shows. It's just an incentive for people to be decent and call ahead and tell them they're not showing up and that the table can become available for other patrons.
Charging a fee to patrons who don't show up for their reservations for many restaurants' no-shows are a big financial issue. Ashley, it certainly turned into a wet one today. I looked out the window this afternoon and was actually a bit shocked by how much rain was coming down.
It was not a nice day out there today. Started with some snow through parts of central, the west coast, the south coast. Very briefly, walking the dogs today was getting hit by ice pellets. But yeah, that changed over to rain. Let's take a look at a live shot outside. The camera's shaking a little bit out there. The winds are gusting upwards of 65 kilometers per hour, and the temperature now has climbed to 8 degrees. Still a bit of a wind chill there. Feels more like 3 degrees. The rain is kind of helping clean everything up, though. I know it's kind of dirty out there at the moment. We do have some winds. The winds, rather, are gusting anywhere from 60 to 70 kilometers per hour for most of the Avalon. Even Bonavista, you're seeing your winds gusting about 56 kilometers per hour. They will ease as we head through tonight, but we've still got some rain to deal with. Most of the heaviest rain has now moved offshore, but we'll continue to see this pretty much until we get to the midnight time frame, and then things should get better. Overall, still sitting around 6 degrees for Gander right now, Twillingate at 2, Port aux Basques only hovering around the 0 degree mark, and then Northern Peninsula, you're in the minus single digits. That's the story for southeastern portions of Labrador as well. And then we've got a temperature in Makkovik around minus 11 and a bit of a wind chill, feeling more like minus 16. So like I said, a few more hours of seeing some of these showers. Most, from what I can see, was about 10 to 20 millimeters for the Burin Peninsula, southern Canagra Peninsula as well. The Avalon, most of us have seen somewhere between 5 to 10. So expect another couple of millimeters of rain. And then as we head through the overnight, really not a whole lot to talk about. We may see a few flurries for the west coast, potentially central as well. But other than that, it is going to be a fairly quiet night tonight. Temperatures will dip into the minus single digits with the exception of the Avalon. We should hover around +1 tonight. Labrador minus teens, but still sitting in the minus 20s, mid-minus 20s for Lab City as your overnight low. Now, as we head through the day tomorrow, fairly quiet weather. We'll likely see some clouds and some periods of sun in the afternoon, which will be nice, but don't be surprised to see a few flurries and maybe even a few showers. Best chance of flurries will be for the west coast, and as we head into the afternoon, we may see a few flurries or showers through areas of central as well. Labrador, for the most part, quiet with the exception of southeast, where you're also looking at the potential for a few flurries. Nothing significant, though, through the afternoon, but as we head into the evening, our next system is going to move in and we'll see another round of snow starting through the overnight along the south, pushing through central by the time we get into the morning, and another one of these systems where likely east we should see mainly rain. There could be some freezing rain and ice pellets in this one as well, so definitely keep an eye on that forecast. Now, temperatures tomorrow will range from anywhere from about 4 to 8 degrees for eastern Newfoundland, a little cooler for Bonavista as the winds will shift from westerly to more easterly. So once we see those winds shift more easterly, temperatures will definitely drop in onshore flow. But overall, again, a little bit unsettled. Some sunshine, though, so it should certainly happen in the afternoon. Similar forecast for areas through central and the south coast, Twillingate +1. 6 degrees in Grand Falls, Windsor. And then as you head towards the west coast, winds will be fairly light, only about 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. And again, daytime highs anywhere from 1 to 4 degrees. Now, the northern peninsula, you'll hover around the 0 degree mark. You're likely looking at some flurries through the day. Same thing for southeastern Newfoundland, southeastern Labrador, rather, where your temperatures will hover around 0 or -1. And then the rest of Labrador looking at lovely sunshine through the day, minus single digits. Winds a little breezy towards the coast, talking about 20 to as much as 40 kilometers per hour out of the southwest. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, temperatures are going to be on the way down, though, as we head through the rest of the weekend. Again, that snow possible on Wednesday, and I'll get into those details when I come back a little later.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, if you've ever wondered what plants are native to Newfoundland and Labrador and what makes them unique, there is a local group very passionate about that. The Botanical Arts Society of Newfoundland and Labrador gathers every month to draw, paint, and raise awareness about native plants and flowers. The CBC's Maddie Ryan has more.
How long have you been drawing?
Forever. I've drawn all the way since I could hold a pencil. We started this group in 2016 and we've grown ever since. I worked years ago doing illustrations with the BC Forest Service, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. Botanical art is rendering an image of a plant, lichen or fungi, so you can tell the species. It can be any part of the plant. It doesn't have to be the whole plant. Botanical illustration is illustrating the whole plant, seeds, flowers, roots, everything, whereas botanical art, we only need to concentrate on one part of the plant.
This group is about art, but it's also about raising ecological awareness. Can you tell me about that?
We have had a native plant exhibition, and we try to show the public that there are a lot of beautiful plants out there, and we're trying to tell the kids. We have summer camps here this year at the garden that we're going to be doing drawing with them, and we're trying to just bring awareness to our native plants and all the natural beauty that's around us. Well, you can go to our website to join, and you'll see our membership form there, or you can just email one of our emails that you see on that and ask questions. We've had a few members join through what they see what we're doing, so they want to join, and this is hopefully what this is going to do today. Hopefully people will see that we're out here, and letting people know we're here, I guess, is one of the big things we had to do originally, because most people didn't even know we were here, and we're so fortunate to have the botanical gardens to work out of. It's great.
Well, you may have encountered it before. You book a reservation at a restaurant and they ask you for your credit card number up front to hold your booking. And if you don't show up, you'll be charged a fee. Well, Quebec is cracking down on no-shows by introducing legislation this summer that would allow restaurant owners to charge people a $10 fee if group bookings don't show up. So is this something more restaurants here should also be doing to cut back on no-shows? Joining me now from New Brunswick is Janet Cormier of Restaurants Canada. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into that proposed legislation in Quebec, how big of a problem are no-shows in general for restaurants? Like, what does it mean for the bottom line of a restaurant when customers just don't show up?
So the problem very much depends on where you're located. This seems to be a bigger issue for larger urban centers with a bigger population, and people have the cover of anonymity that they don't have in smaller towns. In Quebec, it has been evaluated that no-shows account for losses of anywhere between $49,000 to $100,000 in revenue each year. And they do have the large region of Montreal, which would add to that weight. And so restaurants are struggling. We've never recovered from the pandemic. And so if we're losing up to $100,000 in revenue, it's $100,000 that could be very much used to maybe fix a leaky roof, to change a stove that's not working right in the kitchen, et cetera. It's revenue that's very much needed. And that's the big issue here. It's not, restaurants won't make money off charging for no-shows. It's just an incentive for people to be decent and call ahead and tell them they're not showing up and that the table can become available for other patrons.
What are the rules around charging people for no-shows? Aside from Quebec, can other provinces, restaurant owners just do what they like in that regard?
Yes. So Quebec was the only jurisdiction in Canada where the Consumer Protections Act explicitly disallowed the practice of charging for no-shows. So it was the only place where restaurants weren't able to do so legally. Everywhere else in the country, it's been a practice that some restaurants have adopted. Some restaurants haven't. It's really up to each individual restaurant. And it's also up to them to decide how much they charge and under what circumstances, for example. But no-shows are a thing everywhere. It's definitely a bigger issue in larger urban centers, but I waitress part-time here in a small town in New Brunswick, and we have no-shows here, and it does really mess up your entire evening. You're rejecting people at the door, telling them you don't have space, when in reality you do. You're just not aware that your table's not going to show up. So if we're telling people they can't come because we're fully booked, and people don't show up, that's revenue that we're not going to be able to get at the end of the day. The reality is 53% of restaurants aren't profitable right now. We've never recovered from the pandemic. So every little bit counts towards survival at this point.
And I guess at the end of the day is the message that it works in everyone's best interest if the customer just calls ahead and cancels a reservation, because it's that way the restaurant itself can then book someone else to fill that spot. And also the customers who may want a reservation that night can actually get one.
No, exactly. It's just, I think in the last few years, we've seen a phenomenon. As I said, it's especially in bigger urban centers where you'll have groups making reservations at more than one spot and deciding the day of what they feel like eating that night, and then not letting the other restaurants know that they're not coming. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's just about respecting your small business owners in your communities and just letting them know if you're not coming. Nobody's going to be mad at you if you give them a call to cancel. But the servers who are missing out on tips and the business owners who's missing out on revenues, at the end of the day, it does really hurt the bottom line. We're dealing with extremely small profit margins in the restaurant industry. And so if you have this reoccurring problem of people making reservations and not showing up for them, and you're losing that money on that table, it's just not a viable long term. So what we need people to understand is that it does create a difficult situation for each business, and to just call ahead. Like, it's just human decency. Just let us know you're not coming, and you'll come back another time and it'll be okay. It's just, we need to know.
Well, Janet Cormier, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Well, to national news now, an intelligence report claiming that India meddled in the 2022 Conservative leadership race was the hot topic on day 3 of the federal election campaign, and it's raised questions about Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's continued refusal to get his security clearance. The CBC's Olivia Stevanovich has more.
There's no question Pierre Poilievre won the 2022 Conservative leadership race handily. But now new allegations have surfaced, suggesting India meddled in the contest.
Let's be honest. I won the leadership fair and square.
The allegations stem from reports that say Canada's spy watchdog learned Indian proxies raised money and organized within the South Asian community for Poilievre, though there's no evidence Poilievre and his team were aware.
I'm glad that the Liberals put this attack out today. Really glad. Because there's something that's really been worrying me.
Switching from defense to offense, Poilievre swung back, accusing Liberal leader Mark Carney of holding secret meetings with the Chinese central bank.
How is he ever going to stand up to foreign interference?
A claim Carney's team dismissed as a distraction.
I find it beyond baffling. I find it downright irresponsible.
Both Carney and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh say Poilievre would have known about the alleged meddling in his leadership campaign if he had his national security clearance.
That to me disqualifies you as a prime minister candidate. It's not someone that we can trust to stand up to foreign interference.
The foreign interference inquiry the Conservatives called for recommended all federal leaders seek top security clearance.
What I will not do is commit to the oath of secrecy that the Liberals want to impose on me.
I've never thought that that was a credible statement. There is no good reason for that belief.
Poilievre had national security clearance before when he served as a cabinet minister under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. He says he won't seek it again unless he wins the next federal election. Olivia Stevanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now to the United States. American intelligence officials are attending congressional hearings this week to answer questions about threats facing the U.S. Today's hearing came a day after a magazine reported that top national security officials had accidentally included it on a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. Now, Democrats have slammed the Trump administration over the incident, but American intelligence officials have denied there was any classified information in that chat. The CBC's Richard Madden reports.
There was no classified information, as I understand it.
President Donald Trump dismissing the perceived security breach and attacking the journalist who exposed it.
The guy's a total sleazebag.
Trump responding as his top intelligence officials faced a grilling before lawmakers for using a third-party messaging app to discuss their secret war plans for Yemen and mistakenly including the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine to their group chat, where the Vice President, Secretary of State, and Secretary of Defense reportedly texted details about weapons, targets, and timing of airstrikes against Houthi rebels.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe confirmed the group text was authentic, but tried to downplay the fiasco when pressed.
My communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee.
But the reporter who was on that group chat says that's not true, adding the defense secretary texted specific details of his war plans before launching the airstrikes. He chose not to publish it for national security reasons, but now says he'll post an updated story soon.
He was texting attack plans, when targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets.
Now Democrats call it sloppy, incompetent, and accuse Republicans of hypocrisy, a party that sounded the alarms of a massive security breach when former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton once used a private email server. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Well, earlier in the show, we spoke with a St. John's Tesla owner who's been getting some dirty looks while driving around her car around town. And she's not the only one, apparently. From bumper stickers to boycotting Tesla cars, the anti-Elon Musk movement has become the unofficial clarion call for protest against the Trump administration. The grassroots movement has now spilled over into Canada, and it's raising questions about the possible impact on the federal election. The CBC's Katie Nicholson reports.
Never 51. Frig off.
On a cold Ontario morning, Alyssa Getz is getting fired up for a Tesla takedown event.
Canada has a voice. Not for sale.
Getz has never organized a political protest in her life.
I was just feeling so overwhelmed with anxiety, and I needed to put that into action in some ways.
The Tesla takedown movement began in the U.S. as a way for Americans to protest federal cuts made by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency and the Trump administration. Now it's spread across the border with protests in Canadian cities. Like in the U.S., vandals have also targeted Tesla dealerships. More than 80 vehicles damaged in Hamilton. This group, fairly peaceful but passionate, and more motivated heading into this federal election.
I've never been too political before.
Before now?
Before now, yeah.
What has changed for you? Like, why do you feel more galvanized this election?
Well, I feel there is a threat to our country, both economically and potentially in terms of sovereignty.
Others see parallels with the growing divide in the U.S.
Tesla takedown is a reflection of that kind of division spreading into Canada, and I think it will have an influence on how our federal election goes.
It's a bit difficult to tell at this point how it is going to impact the election.
Professor Howard Ramos says Tesla takedown protests here serve as a reminder of the politics south of the border.
I can imagine that different parties, in particular the Liberals, will try and make as many linkages as they can to Musk and Trump with the Conservatives in Canada.
But for Alyssa Getz, this movement is part of a greater political awakening.
People are deciding to do more research and involve themselves a little bit more in politics because of what's happening in America, and I think that's what should happen.
An American protest inspiring at least one Canadian voter. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Oakville, Ontario.
Well, after more than 2 decades in New Brunswick, the Acadie Bathurst Titans are relocating to St. John's. And on Saturday, fans gave them an emotional send-off as they played their final regular season home game.
It's the last regular season game for our hockey team, and it coincides as actually our last regular season home game ever in Bathurst. So it's there's a lot of emotion in the air. It's a big game for our hockey team and most importantly the community and our fans.
I don't know if you want to say it's a part of history, but to me it's just something special, right? About that last game. So.
It's the excitement of the people cheering for the team. It gets everybody together, and it's fun. It's the atmosphere of the team.
I'm anxious, I'm happy, I'm sad, a little bit of angry, but I'm mostly happy to see them back here.
We've been fans since the beginning, so it's a big deal for us. We're a Village family too, so we have a player on the ice. We've been looking forward to it, mixed emotions, excited to come, but sad that we're seeing the end.
For 27 years, it's been part of our community and our family, so it's a very bittersweet moment. But they've literally put Bathurst on the map, and what they've done with the community and the players. They're not just players, but they were in the community, they were in the schools. They were part of our family.
All right, before we get to the forecast, we just wanted to share this video with you.
Yeah, it was taken last night around midnight in Nain and shows a meteor. You can see how the sky there was turning bright, and then right after, the meteor is flying through the upper left corner.
Yes, and it's over so quickly. We'll take another look at it. There, it's bright, and then that glimpse of the meteor in the upper left-hand corner. It was also seen in Hopedale, Natchwashish, and in Voisey's Bay.
Yeah, thanks to Annie Solomon for sharing that video with us. And she said a bunch of people drove from Makovic on their snowmobiles to see it, and they said that for a second, the meteor lit Nain up like the sun. Wow.
It's great that someone caught it on video, even though you can't really see it. It's just like a little bit there in the corner, but
yeah.
the light and
the snowmobilers probably had no idea what was going on. Why is it so bright? I love shooting stars. They're the best.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the long-range forecast now. How are we looking as we get closer to the weekend?
Yeah, so, well, Thursday is going to be a little bit more on the wintry side. Again, we're looking at the potential for some more snow. So let's take a look at what's going on as we head through Wednesday evening and into Thursday. So this is when the system will move in. It does look like eastern Newfoundland, again, will be more on the warm side of this system. So most of the Avalon, Burin Peninsula will likely see this fall as rain through the day, and then through the morning, I should say. And then we've got the potential for some ice pellets and maybe even some freezing rain in the mix there as well. So definitely going to keep an eye on that if you do have any travel plans across the province, across the island through the day on Thursday. Keep an eye. But by the time we get into the afternoon, most of this should have pushed north. Northern Peninsula, southeastern Labrador, you're going to see that snow, and then eventually that will end again into the evening hours as that area of low pressure finally pulls away. So temperatures should stay somewhere between 7 and 8 degrees for most of eastern Newfoundland. Central, you'll hover around the 1 degree mark. Northern Peninsula, a little cooler than that, a little bit below zero. That will be the story for southeastern Labrador as well. And then we've got temperatures in the minus single digits for the rest of the Big Land, with daytime highs sitting between -2 and -7 as your afternoon or your Thursday's temperatures. So taking a look at Friday, it'll start a little cloudy. We may see some showers or flurries lingering along the northeast coast as this area of low pressure moves off. But overall unsettled through the day. The west coast, you're likely looking at the potential for a few flurries in the mix there as well. And then late day, we'll see some more flurries move in for Lab City. Overall temperatures really not moving a whole lot. They'll sit around a degree or 2 or 3, even above zero. And then a little bit below for the Northern Peninsula, southeastern Labrador, and then -8, the story for Lab City and Nain. Temperatures ones across the board as we head into Saturday and Sunday, with the potential for a few flurries in the mix there as well. So yes, more on the wintry side. Our overnight lows will sit in the minus single digits as well. Then for central and western Newfoundland, your temperature's a little warmer, only by a degree or 2, but still also looking at the potential for some flurries, but a little bit more sunshine in the mix for you, or at least some sunny periods. Eastern Labrador, hanging out in the minus single digits by Sunday, and then really not moving a whole lot for Western Labrador. Our weather photo today taken in Clarenville. This is this morning.
Oh, wow. What a difference.
Yeah. Didn't last long, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to Denise for that. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, it's beautiful, though.
It is. Nice. I love a perfect snowy day.
Yeah, nice postcard picture there. Yeah, won't be seeing many more of those, I guess,
No.
on the island.
Not lasting long, anyway.
Not lasting long, yeah. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.